not a story time misadventure, but we're just gonna chat today about society's, beauty standards and like the male gaze and stuff like that. So I graduated from Rutgers University and I've taken a few courses on some, like women's studies. I pray I don't let them down, I may have to do some research on the side, to kind of refresh my memory, but I like to say that I'm pretty knowledgeable in these, certain topics. So these level of discourses. So we're gonna talk about that today, and we're gonna talk about just a whole bunch of things like colorism, fat phobia, like part of what constitutes as beauty standards today, and even back then, and also colorism, racism, I said all that. So if you guys wanna grab like some hot chocolate, some tea, some water, we might go deep into it. I'm probably gonna go into some of my experiences with beauty standards and like the male gaze as well. I'm drinking some wine because I'm 25 and I'm grown.
Bitch, I'm grown!
This wine is sponsored by my local liquor store. Product placement. I'm kidding, just practicing for the future. Anyway, so we're gonna get started and let's get into it. So before y'all ask me, why is she drinking wine in like a regular cup and not a wine glass? The wine glass is like all the way at the top. I don't even know why they make cupboards or whatever cabinets that high. I'm 5'3.5", basically 5'4", but I'm 5'4", and I can't reach the top of the cabinet. So my cousin has longer arms than me, and she's not here right now to get the wine glass at the top, so I can't get it. So we stuck with a cup today, and I'm not trying to break my neck for nobody, not for nobody's video, okay? I'm not trying to break my neck, so we just gonna drink wine out of a regular cup like y'all never done that before. So for all my non-women studies or gender studies course takers, basically the male gaze is like viewing like women through the lens of like heterosexual men, and typically that image is usually distorted. It's usually like overtly sexual, kind of amalgamated with a certain level of innocence as well. I think it's kind of borderline pedophilic. I'm going into that because usually there's like this kind of double-sided coin where it's like, okay, they want women to be cute and they infantilize them, and then there's also like this trope where they overly sexualize them, which is kind of like why you see like certain movies and shows like depict this kind of like younger woman, older man kind of thing. And I don't know if y'all seen it, but I peep game. I'm just like, this is kind of like infantilizing, but anyway, I digress. So typically those are like the views of women that we see. It's usually overtly sexual, but meanwhile maintaining a sense of innocence. So kind of like how guys be like, oh, I want a baddie, da da da, but she can't have any bodies. And it's like, but you have 100. How does that work? Okay, so anyway, so that's essentially kind of like what the male gaze is, at least from my perspective. I don't know everything verbatim or whatever. Like, I'm just speaking from my experiences and also speaking like based off of the education that I had. But at the end of the day, I still have my own take because it's my opinion. Anyway, that's it for male gaze in my perspective. So when it comes to beauty standards though, that's when I think that it's essentially, not saying that men don't have beauty standards, but in a society where women their currency is I'm saying they're like, I'm not a woman. Our currency is like how we look. And whereas for men, it's kind of like they're more so respected in means of like wealth, like how much money they earn. Like they don't really care about how guys look. I'm not saying guys can't look good and groom and stuff like that, but society in general do not really care about how men look. They're not telling them, oh, you gotta look this way to get a wife, you gotta look that way to get they're not telling them that. They're saying like, you need to earn money and be the breadwinner and all this, that, and third. But for women, it's like, that's why there's so many like products geared to like anti-aging. It's like, oh, anti-aging cream and eye mask. It's to remove the eye bags, and it's like wrinkles. Yeah, because typically our currency is looks, which is what you've seen from I'm a little parched. Which is what you've seen in like that Kevin Samuels video where he was talking to the lady. I don't know if y'all seen the video, but basically Kevin Samuels is some dude. I don't really look into him, but apparently he's supposed to be some type of relationship expert. Google, I don't really know, but the video I saw of him was kind of like really disheartening. And it was this woman, she came on his show and she was basically saying how she wanted a 6-figure man because she herself, she herself is making 6 figures. Like, what's wrong with that? I don't see the problem. So apparently that was a problem for him because she apparently didn't look good enough to get a 6-figure or rich, high salary, quality man. Like, and basically he was like, oh, guys don't care about, you know, what you're making, what you, like, basically what you bring to the table, like, basically if you don't look good. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not saying that's what he said verbatim, but like, if you don't look good, they don't really care that much about it. Like, shorty's out here making 6 figures. Like, y'all could equally make a lot of income together, but because apparently she didn't look good to him, it's like null and void. Just get someone of a lower status than you. I don't want to call it status, but you know what I mean. Like get someone that has lower income. And it's like, why can't she want someone on her level? Like that's because rich women aren't really revered as much as rich men are. And if they are, it's more so like, oh, like an exception, not like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this is like something normal. It's more like, oh my gosh, wow, you know, she's rich. But it's never like the norm. It's never like, oh, you expect a woman to be successful and rich based off of like monetary value. It's more so like, okay, yeah, how does she look? It's a lot of that. So anyway, our beauty standards are typically for women. Like, it's a standard that we have to adhere to. Not necessarily men as much. I mean, I get the height, and I know that might have to be another video. I'm gonna talk about men or something like that because this is mainly for my women out there. But I do understand that men kind of have like this kind of discourse about height and like all this other stuff. So, and beards and yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I get that, but typically beauty standards are more so geared towards women and how women should look. So basically, beauty standards, it doesn't just encompass one like spectrum. Like it encompasses the world. So there's different beauty standards in every facet of the world, but we're mainly gonna talk about America because I live in America. So beauty standards, typically it was more so white supremacy based. So I mean, a lot of people would say like, oh, you know, there are beautiful black women, beautiful Asian women, this, that, and the third. Yeah, there are. But in society, like typically what they consider to be like the upper echelon of beauty was white women. Typically like more blonde hair, blue eyes, like Aryan race, like Hitler type thing. It was more so geared towards that. Like white women were the peak femininity, peak beauty. Like they were offered innocence. That's why I kind of talked about before with the male gaze about sexualizing and innocence as well. I feel like that innocence was kind of partly descended from the whole white feminine identity. Yeah, typically they were allowed to be innocent, and even though a lot of them weren't, because a lot of them was out here in the little slave barracks busting it down. I'm sorry. Busting it down. So it's like, but a lot of them still got to be afforded innocence, whereas like black women who were raped by like white slave masters were considered to be like whores and like seductresses and stuff like that. And yeah, typically, so beauty standards also encompass like race and yeah, like fat phobia and colorism, and it's a whole bunch. Like I may not even get into all of it because it really is a lot when you think about it. But yeah, so typically white women were afforded femininity and innocence, and black women in result were not afforded femininity. Like a lot of times, like even in Sojourner Truth's Ain't I a Woman speech, like she's a woman. She was basically saying in that speech like she's a woman too. However, because she was kind of forced to do labor, like a lot of, like not a lot, like black people were back in slave times, like we were forced to do labor, women, children included. We weren't afforded that femininity and like that staying at home and staying pure and like having dainty fingers and like not touching a broom, not touching it, you know. So like back in those days we didn't get afforded that. I mean, we still don't get afforded femininity because a lot of times they think of us as like too masculine. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, and Sojourner Truth is like Ain't I Woman's Speech. Basically it's like black women didn't get afforded that innocence and beauty and that kind of privilege it was to be a woman back in those times. And I quote privilege because it's like there's no such thing as female privilege, but at the same time, when you were a white woman back in those days and you weren't getting whooped like a whipping post, I mean, that was a privilege. White women had privilege. That's all I can say. White women had privilege. Not women in general, but white women had privilege. So that's just that. So yeah, throughout the years, like since slavery times and then all the way down to Jim Crow and like the 50s and 60s, like white women were still afforded like innocence and, you know, and stuff like that. However, despite the fact that they were afforded innocence, it still was kind of like, what do you call it? It still kind of held them back. Like that identity still kind of held them back because I feel like a lot of them felt like they weren't allowed to have any other image besides that. So these beauty standards kind of trickled all the way down, like slavery, Jim Crow, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then we get into like the 90s, 2000s era. Beauty standards back then were white, thin, able-bodied, blonde, but they also differed between hair color, but it was still white. So no matter what, it was just white. It wasn't gonna be someone like me. I was not the beauty standard. So yeah, like white, very, very thin, like the models, Victoria's Secret angels, all that. And basically growing up seeing like majority of like women in like romance movies and like teen coming of age movies, like I saw typically a lot of white characters. And don't get me wrong, like when I was younger, if it was a character that I related to, like I related to the character. It doesn't matter if they were white, black, Asian, Native American, it didn't matter. So but growing up though, it was kind of hard when I saw myself in these people, and you would have like people around you saying like, oh, you don't look like them though, like you can't relate because like you don't look like them. Like for example, with Cinderella Story, like Hilary Duff, like that was my movie and I felt like I related to her. And like movies like Miss Congeniality and Princess Diaries, like I always felt like, you know, like the ugly duckling or whatever and turned into a swan. You feel me? Like I felt like that was more my story and I related to them a lot. It was kind of hard to see when like you would say like what character you related to or whatever, and then the white girls would be like, oh, but you don't look like her. And it's just like, dang, like then who can I relate to that looks like me? Like I mean, I had characters that looked like me, but at the same time, like it wasn't as much. Like the fact that you could notice when a black character comes on, like, oh my gosh, there's a black character, that means it's rare. I remember like praying at night, like that I would like wake up Hispanic, like J-Lo, like wake up like light skin or like white, like when I was like really young. Like I used to pray to God, like, and I was very dramatic because like when I've seen like fantasy movies and how like certain things would like magically appear or whatever. So I don't know, when I was crying, I thought like my tears, like God would hear my cry and like the tears would magically transform me into a different race. I know, crazy, right? I used to just be crying. I'm like, okay, like when we like make a wish, I wish I may, I wish I might kind of thing. And woke up still black. And then, but I feel like from that point on, once I woke up, I woke up black. I was just like, you know what? It is what it is. Like it took some time to kind of overcome that. Actually, no, not for the different race thing. For being a different race, that changed quickly. So I'm still black. Now it was more so, okay, I just want to be conventionally attractive because, you know, I've had people in my life, like when I was really young, like say I was ugly, like a lot. So it did kind of hurt because I'm just like, okay, if I can't, like, then I'm like, God, if I can't be white, I can't be Hispanic, make me pretty. Like, make me pretty. And it took some time to really, like, in this society, it took some time to really see myself as, like, a beautiful human being. It took some time. It still takes time now. Like, I do have my off days, but you can't tell me nothing now. You can't tell me nothing now. Like, yeah, you can't.
Period. 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 Nothing else to say, like, period. Period.
Because at this point, like, talk to me nice or don't talk at all. I'm into calling war. I'm off the Adderall. Sorry, Pop Smoke. Rest in peace. But, yeah, so it took some time to kind of, like, get over trying to fit into certain beauty standards. But at this point, I just kind of was like, you know what? It took time. But when I got older, that's when I was just like, okay, I'm not going to try to, like, you know, make my eyebrows thin or try to lose weight for people. Like, if I was going to lose weight, it was going to be for me and how I wanted to look, not because, oh, society told me to. But it took some time because, like, I used to be very, very, like, based on looks. Like, I used to try to do everything based on looks. I put too much value on looks. Now, I knew that there was importance in inner beauty, but, like, I don't know, people just back then just weren't, they did not care about your inner beauty at all. They didn't care. So I was just like, okay, dang, I have to put so much emphasis on looks. So, like, when I was younger and, like, everyone was growing boobs, like, I had none back then, but, I mean, I feel like that's the one wish that God granted, and I'm like, God, really? Because, like, man, like, you showed out with that one. After that point, I was like, all right, that's enough. Yeah, you did enough. But I used to have, like, I was really, like, flat as a board, and, like, I prayed. I'm like, God, can I get big boobs like everybody else in class, and, like, or like a few girls in class. And it took a while, but they're here now. But anyway, so I used to stuff my bra with tissue in the bathroom, and I was like, what, 7th grade? Everyone was like getting their, going through puberty. I felt like I was a late bloomer. And yeah, so that's when I was like trying to fit in so bad. Like middle school, that was like a really like important year. Like those were important years. Those were like, yeah, those were like, I don't know what to call them. Like, what do you call them things? Like, yeah, they were very important years, like shaping years. So when you see people around you having boobs and stuff like that, like it was like, bro, like the heck? And don't even get me started. So don't even get me started on the black community now. So, you know, you have beauty standards with white women and like bigger boobs were in, okay? So we was stuffing our bras, like this is what we was doing. But then so black people kind of have like their foot in and out of like 2 different type of beauty standards. Like it's kind of hard because growing up, like everything was whiteness. So then you try to adhere to white beauty standards, you know, trying to have bigger boobs, maybe trying to be a little bit smaller in the stomach area and, you know, stuff like that. But then you had like the black community beauty standards. And those were just 2 distinct things. So you had Becky, she's skinny, you know, and then you got Renee, and she thick. And, you know, when you're around her, so then at this point, when you start getting older, you start being around black community more. So you start have to getting into like baby got back. Like you gotta have a big butt, you gotta have like, then this is where the colorism come in. You gotta have lighter skin, you gotta have light skin, you gotta have so you gotta be like a red bone essentially. You can't be dark skin. Like if you was dark skin, they was not checking for you. Like they was not checking for you. Yeah, anything like brown to dark skin, either brown skin were ignored, dark skin were ridiculed, or they just weren't checking for you, period, unless you were light skinned, to be honest. So yeah, so you had to be thick, you had to have a big butt. They didn't care much about boobs that much, but you had to have a big butt. So then there were times where I would like try to do like squats and stuff to get like a bigger butt, like when I was younger. Or just like really like praying like I just get a big butt, because like people in my family like have big butts, and I'm just like, dang, like it skipped me, and I just wanted to fit somebody's beauty standard, okay? I wanted to fit somebody's beauty standard, and I was not fitting it. I was not fitting the standard. when I was younger. Like I was not fitting the standard. Black community, white beauty standards didn't matter. Just was not fitting the standard until I got older. I think about 8th grade, 9th grade. Moved to a different state, moved to a different city, and that's when I noticed, like, okay, male gaze. This is like male gaze time now. So with the male gaze, it was ridiculous. Like I said, innocent yet sexual, because I was like in 8th or 9th grade, and like either it was senior boys or like could have been boys my age too, or a couple or older, but it was just like I could be going to class, like literally going to algebra 2, whatever, and literally, I kid you not, like I would hear like boys behind me like talking about my butt. Like, yes, my butt got bigger. Thank God, I did pray for that. However, that don't mean I want you like, you know, on my back, literally. The heck? Like, so I was like, oh my gosh, look at her fat, da da da. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, I'm like low key, I'm comfortable. I'm trying to go to class. Like, I'm just trying to go to class, please. Like, please, no pictures. No, but seriously, like, I'm just trying to go to class. Like, it's just like really uncomfortable. Like, you don't gotta talk about it like all the time. Like, for real, like, relax. Okay, great. And either they'll talk about my boobs or something like that, and it just would be so awkward because I'm just sitting there like, who gave you the permission? Who gave you the right? Like, but you couldn't really talk about it, or else it was just like they wasn't gonna hear you for real. It's like you were just expected to think it was a compliment. So I just literally sat there, kept my head down, and just try to keep doing my work or whatever. So yeah, so that's like kind of like my interaction with the male gaze, in which they do find you attractive. So with the male gaze, on both ends, whether they find you attractive or not, it's still pretty damaging. It's still pretty weird because they just see you as a sexual object. And then if they don't see you as a sexual object, they see you as nothing. And it's like equally, it's both objectifying. It's both disgusting, and I hate it. And I just wish society had done better in that regard. So yeah, so with the male gaze, you typically see it in like movies, video games, and stuff like that. Like a lot of times women are just like very scantily clad, lack of clothing. Like you see it in video games too. And then like even in comic books, I'm not gonna lie, Marvel and DC, we gotta talk about some of these costumes, because it's like, why are some people borderline wearing a bikini and thong, or very tight very tight like leather like cat suits and stuff like that? Like, nigga, I'm trying to fight. Like, trying to tussle, trying to fight. Why am I wearing barely anything? You know, like, dang, can I be protected? Can I have some gear? Like, where's the armor? Like, what's going on? Like, I need protective gear. Like, y'all were trying to have my, like, listen, for my ladies, especially for my busty ones, like, we need support with like two sports bras put together and all that stuff. You need to tell me shorty finna be running with like a deep V and like a deep V little suit, or like a deep V shirt and a little skirt. Like, shorty, when you run, that don't hurt. Where's your support? Where's the support at? I just want to talk. Like, I just want to talk Marvel, DC, like, what's going on? Like, we didn't need all that. Like I am happy for like the later on, like the what do you call it? Super heroines like Captain Marvel and stuff like that, where they had got to have gear, but then again, it was also like really tight. So it's like, you take what you can get, I guess. But before, back in the day, I was just like, why shorty got like a top and a skirt or whatever, and her boob like just like literally falling out? Like, how the heck she supposed to run? How the heck she supposed to fly? Like all that jump gonna be flapping in the wind. It's not gonna flap? Like, I don't know. But I'm just saying. But either way, so video games, movies, all that stuff, like, it was just very, very geared towards like showing the sexual appeal of women, but only through the male gaze though, because like when women do that themselves, it's a problem. It's a problem. It's like, how dare you like engage in your feminine sexuality? Like, how dare you? Only we can do that. And it's like, I'm sorry, are you a woman? Like, how does that work? How do you get to show women in a sexual light and fashion and stereotypes, mind you, whereas a woman actually engaging in her own sexuality and her own way of being, you want to ridicule it and say, how dare she? Like, that doesn't, it's ironic, to be honest. It didn't afford women the right to explore their own sense of femininity. It was just more so, okay, yeah, you have one issue with beauty standards. You have to appear a certain way, you have to look a certain way, and then it's the male gaze where it's like they're sexualizing you / infantilizing you. It's a lot to deal with. So yeah, so now let's get into the male gaze with I don't know if people talk about this, but male gaze in a sense where they're not attracted to you, where you're ignored, or basically they look at you as like kind of like a asexual being in which you're not able to be regarded in your femininity as well. Like, you're just there. Like, you're not even a blip in the radar. You're not even noticed. And we're gonna talk about that. Also how that ties into race as well, and fat phobia and all that stuff. So when the men aren't attracted to the women, that's a whole other like disheartening topic. So it's like you have the sense where it's like, okay, they're attracted to you, they sexualize you. I'll bet very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I still feel, I don't know, I'm sorry, I can't say it's slightly better than them not finding you attractive. It's just a different form. I don't think it's more or less, it's just different, and it's still just weird. It's just weird. Okay, so when guys typically don't find you attractive, growing up, they either ignored you or made fun of you, basically treated you like garbage. So 8th and 9th grade, like I talked about, like I was considered, like at my school at least, fitting the standard. But when I got older, when I got to 10th grade, I gained like so much weight. I was depressed at the time, and it was a lot. There was a lot going on. So I gained a ton. Jesus, I would hate to see pictures now. Lord have mercy. Please, I hope someone burnt all the pictures of my sophomore and junior year of high school to the ground, because Lord have mercy. Please don't find me. So I gained a lot of weight, and it didn't look good on me. I didn't wear it well. Not to say whoever gains weight, oh my gosh, it's crazy. No, it just didn't look good on me, because I was used to growing up back in the day to be really skinny and then, slightly curvy. So then it was just like, whoa, that was really crazy. So when I gained the weight, it was like all the guys who used to give me kind of like that attention kind of reneged. And it was also like either they reneged, ignored me, or they picked on me. And it was just kind of like, it was weird to see, because like when you don't keep up with the beauty standards, like you're exiled, like you're ridiculed. And I don't know if any of y'all have felt that, but it's like, that's why people be talking about let yourself go, and like in the community, even just society in general. We live in a patriarchal society where they're just like, oh, you need to keep up your weight so your husband won't leave you. Like, it's crazy. Like, you have to really think about stuff like that. Like, so it's like you have to kind of upkeep. They're always teaching women how to upkeep, but men could walk around with beer bellies, with hair sticking out their belly button. Like, why don't we talk about their upkeep? Why don't we talk about that? So it's just mainly geared towards women, which is kind of sad. It's upsetting me, my homegirls. So we got that. And then, so when I gained the weight, it was like, girl, ew, like, like you were lit last year, but now, what? Like, it was just like, it's like I felt it on both sides. So I'm kind of like, both of them still were uncomfortable, and yeah, it's not very fun. And also, when it comes to race and you're in a predominantly white society, if they don't find your race or something attractive, they'll literally see your whole race as like disgusting or unworthy. And I say that because in definitely a lot of shows. So okay, so like I said, in a lot of shows, so if they do find you attractive, like you're like in a white society, like you're the black girl who's not like other black girls. You're the black girl I actually find attractive. Like white guys will be making that comment and stuff like that. Like, oh, I don't typically like black girls, but I like you. It's kind of like, ew, please. So in that sense, where it's like you're the rare exotic beauty in a white society, typically, but when we do have attention, when black women do have attention, it's typically like, okay, then you're the seductress. You're not afforded innocence and femininity like white girls are. You're more like animalistic and like overtly sexual, like the Jezebel and like those type of stereotypes. And yeah, so it's like it's a lose-lose situation. And when they don't find you attractive, then you're more so in the realm of like the asexual mammy portion. So yeah, so like for example, I used to love watching Vampire Diaries, and a lot of the times the white women were like revered as like beautiful. Elena and Caroline were like beautiful, but like Bonnie Bennett, the black character, the witch, she was portrayed as like asexual. Like no guys wanted her, which I found extremely crazy because Cat Graham is gorgeous. Okay, if you look up Cat Graham, she's gorgeous. So I'm just saying, like a lot of the times with the male gaze, it's like when you don't fit into the standard, and basically you kind of get ignored and or pushed aside, cast away. But then when you do get the attention, it's not the attention that is flattering or befitting of a woman. So yeah, that's essentially what that is. And I just say, for me, I think that beauty standards should be debunked in general, and that we need to stop looking at women through such harsh lenses. Just look at women as human beings. Like this whole male gaze just needs to be debunked. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, men they always say men are visual creatures, da da da. Like, we all don't have eyes. Okay, we all have eyes. The hills have eyes. Okay, so we all have eyes, but apparently, men are more so visual creatures. But even if they're visual creatures, that doesn't mean that we have to portray these images through male lenses. Like, we don't have to perpetuate these stereotypes about women even more, like the sexualizing, infantilizing stereotypes even more. Like, we should just let women be women, and also inadvertently let men be men as well. But in this scenario, which I'm talking, let women be women, and that's just it. But thank you guys for listening. I know I rambled a lot. Like I'm a rambler. Like, I don't really do scripts. I go off the dome. So I'm sorry if I rambled. I'm sorry if you was trying to like jot notes down. I was, but it's a lot to kind of talk about, like all in one. I probably should have written notes, to be honest, but I like to do a little off book just to be candid with you guys. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.